Okay, welcome everyone. Today we will start with the new book, book 17, Yang Huo. Okay, so let's read the translation, whatever you have, and I believe Kwang will read it, and then we share Among and my translation, and then we can continue. So let's start it. Kwang, you want to read? Book
Okay.
17, chapter 1.
Yeah, 17, chapter 1, translation by Professor Robert Eno. Yang Huo wished to have Confucius appear in audience, but Confucius would not appear. Yang Huo sent Confucius a suckling pig. Confucius timed a visit for a day when Yang Huo was not at home and went to pay his thanks, but encountered Yang Huo on the road. Yang Huo addressed Confucius, "Come, I want to have a word with you. To conceal your treasure and let your stake go astray, can this be called a run? No, it cannot. To be eager to engage in affairs, but to repeatedly miss one's proper time, can this be called wisdom? No, it cannot. The days and months are rushing by. No extra years would be allotted to me." Confucius said, "All right, it is my intent to serve."
Okay, thank you, Kwang. Anyone want to read? So let me share the screen.
And I'll read from my copy. Book 17, Yang Huo. Yang Huo wanted Confucius to see him, but Confucius wouldn't see him. He sent a suckling pig to Confucius. Confucius chose the time when he was out to pay a visit. He ran into him, Yang Huo, on his way. He called Confucius, "Come, I would like to talk to you." And he said, "Can one be called red when he cherishes his treasures, but lets his state go astray?" Confucius said, "He cannot." Yang Huo said, "Can one be called wise when he is eager to be engaged in public affairs, but repeatedly misses the timing?" Confucius said, "He cannot." Yang Huo said, "The days and months are passing away. The years aren't waiting for us." Confucius said, "Yes, I will serve the government."
Thank you, Amam. So here, I believe the message is, well, the story is clear. The message may not be very clear. So that's what I'd like to say. First, Yang Huo is the chief minister of Ji family, and the Ji family is the most powerful family in the state of Du. So suppose Yang Huo is in the high position. So here say Yang Huo 遇见孔子. Actually, some translation will say, even in the Chinese interpreter will say, "Oh, Yang Huo want to see Confucius. Confucius refused to see him," which is not right. Actually, but Yang Huo will not visit Confucius, because Yang Huo will ask Confucius to see him, but Confucius doesn't want to. Okay, so Yang Huo sent Confucius a suckling pig, a kind of a gift, just like today you send a flower or some gift, some cake to somebody. But the tricky thing is this: Yang Huo sent the suckling pig when Confucius is not home. Because if you send the gift to Confucius and or when I say he sent the suckling pig, that means he personally go there. He asked somebody to send the suckling pig to Confucius. But if Confucius were at home, Confucius will receive and thank you, blah, 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 then the deal is done. So what Yang Huo did is when Confucius is not home, he sent the suckling pig. So Confucius has no choice other than personal go to visit Yang Huo and say thank you. In this way, Yang Huo have the opportunity to talk to Confucius. So Confucius know this trick. So Confucius also, that's why he said when Confucius, when Yang Huo is not home, and Confucius try go back to visit. So in this way, okay, Confucius return the thank you. And then Yang Huo is not home. So he just have to talk to his doorman or whoever, say, oh, thank you for sending me the suckling pig. So blah, 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 then he can leave. But unfortunately, after when Confucius returned, on the way home, he ran into Yang Huo. Okay, so Yang Huo say, come, I want to talk to you. So that's the message. Yang Huo say, can one be called Ren if you cherish his treasure, but never, and look at the state, that state go astray. So that means you have a talent, you don't contribute, is that Ren? Okay, and they say is that wise if you constantly miss the time to serve the government? At that time, Confucius was 49 years old. So the time is running out. So then finally Confucius say, yes, I will serve. So we know in 1 or 2 years, okay, around 51 years old or 50 something years old, Confucius really get a job on that. So we don't know what's the purpose of this text here, but that's the message described, before Confucius take the government position. So that's I need to explain here. And then Amang, you have, please.
Thank you. It is an interesting little vignette. And now we're back into notes that seem like somebody was paying attention to the master himself and not producing these after the fact. This reads like an actual encounter one of his students watched happen. And there's the etiquette game at work here of timing, turning, sending a gift when somebody isn't home so that they will be required to come and pay their gratitude in person. And it's like my mother always saying, did you write a thank you card? And I've never written one in my entire years. But Confucius would not simply go against etiquette. The timing of going to visit when he likewise isn't home, so that you can tell the master, I did what I was supposed to. I'm grateful. I appreciate the opportunity. And there's an undercurrent here. This high official wants Confucius to put up. In other words, put your money where your mouth is. I see the students you're turning out. I see the quality of education you're giving them. I see the quality of education you have. You are letting your good years just slip by you. Why don't you do what it is you teach your students to do? And Confucius doesn't want to do this because he doesn't have deep admiration, respect, or reverence for the G family. He would not want to be serving. It's like, here's your dream job in the worst possible institution. Would you take it? And he's being offered this, and at the end he has to concede because his own lessons are thrown back in his face, and the happen chance of meeting face to face with Yang Huo means that he couldn't avoid this any longer. And so it really is one of those extreme dilemmas of, all right, you've talked a good game. Now you're being given the chance. What will you do? And you can almost hear the resignment in his voice at the end. Yes, I will serve. not something I wish to do, but it's something I must do because I have the opportunity. It is right that I at least try. I like this vignette. It really feels like we're back to listening to the students take notes on not just the master's lessons, but his actions.
Thank you, Amam. Okay, so let's have a brief discussion on this chapter. Okay, Kwang, please.
So there's a particular context in this case, in the sense that this Yang Ho was, let's say, a nobleman working for the Chisun family, as Amon said. But when he has been named as, let's say, the commander-in-chief of the city of Yi, he managed to take the city for himself. So let's not forget that at the time, the high-ranking nobleman would steal the ruling family, and the lower nobleman would steal the high-ranking nobleman. So it's a series of usurpations. Okay, so Yang Ho is absolutely the kind of person that Confucius would not want to associate himself with, because at the time that Yang Ho was asking Confucius to serve, he was a kind of a rebellious nobleman holding for himself the city of Yi that he just stole maybe 1 or 2 years ago from his former overlord, the Chisun family. And apparently, that Chisun family was not capable to take back their own city. So it was quite troubled time, let's say.
So, Kwang, you said it's B, right? B family, B city, right?
Yeah, PE.
Right. Yeah. Okay, I just make sure I hear. Yeah, and then actually he really rebelled against Ji family, then escaped. I think in the book 9 and the book 11, talking about when Confucius was in Kwang, right? In Kwang.
Exact.
Yeah, and the people thought that's a mistake Confucius as Yang Ho and want to kill Confucius. That's
exact. Because when he escaped,
yes,
when he escaped Lu 2 years later to the principality of Jing to the west of Lu, he would go through that place called Kwang, and let's say that he did not leave a very good souvenir to the inhabitants. And apparently he was quite tall too, like Confucius, and he has a certain resemblance to Confucius. So people thought that people thought that Confucius was Yang Ho.
Yeah, but I think the situation could be I read some story is because the Confucius is hard to be mistaken because he's so tall. Okay, during that time, very few people this tall. So because I think the person who drives the carriage, okay, is the same guy. Okay, that's why people thought that's Yang Ho and try to kill the person inside the cart.
Yes, that's another story, right? That's another version.
Because the series, nobody look like Confucius because Confucius is so different.
Anyway, that Yang Ho would have a very brilliant career in Jing and would help Prince Kwai Kui from Wei to snatch the principality of Wei from his own son that his grandfather named at his death. Anyway, Confucius would be involved very intimately with all those disputes within the different ruling families of the China of the time. I stop here.
Yeah, thank you, Kwang. Yeah, that's a lot of the history. We can probably talk hours, just about this. Yeah, Paul. Thank you for waiting.
Yeah, just a observation/question, which is, it seems that if Confucius had ethical concerns that said, maybe I'm relating this back to the Tao, like you don't get involved with things that are not in accordance with your general morals. So if he had those kind of concerns, you'd think they would trump this whole suckling pig stuff and all the things the guy said to him on the road. So I'm inferring that he instead thought of himself as just, well, I just don't like this and I don't like this guy. I'm personally kind of not wanting to do this, but I still, quote unquote, should. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said, yes, I will serve. But I'm asking you guys if that's a way to think about it or not.
So
Well,
I wanted to address this, and I'm not going to give you a great answer here, but I do want to point out the etiquette war that I was talking about. These are rituals. In other words, they're li. These are absolute cornerstones of his teaching, that you observe the correct li, the correct ritual. And that's not only in like the elaborate performative rituals, that is in day-to-day sort of etiquette. So all of that sort of detente that they were having was a battle of li, of being able to observe it and still try and get what you want in the end. I ask you to visit, you politely refuse. I give you a gift, and I choose a time where you're going to have to not receive it in person. Now you've got to come and give me that thank you letter, and you've got to do that in person, but you choose a time to try and be clever enough that I'm not home as well. All of this is just battles of li. The idea of a good man not having a job when the things are good is anathema, and that when the Tao is lost, a good man should retreat to pursue his own ends. It feels very Taoistic, I guess, in that sense of reclusion. This isn't a time or state where that necessarily was absolutely clear. It was tumultuous, but maybe the Tao isn't entirely lost, and maybe my service can help reclaim it. Now that this official offer has been made, I have to make the attempt. But as Jason pointed out, there's years between this and his actual holding a official title. So a lot more sort of maneuvering goes on before he gets into that place where he must actually enact this out. So I don't think it's completely incommensurate with his previous teachings, but I do think something like this would have informed them a great deal more to tell his students, be cautious, try and really think before you just leap at opportunities.
Thank you, Aban. But when we say previous teaching, be careful this word, okay? Because we say previous teaching because it's in the book 1 to book 18 or book something, right? It doesn't mean time is previous. So most of we read what the master said, it happened later, okay? And this thing happened earlier. So actually this time, probably Confucius didn't say or didn't form the idea like, oh, when the Tao is not prevail and you should go in recluse or something. Probably he didn't say that yet. And then I hope Paul will stay to the chapter 5 and the chapter 7. That's come with more challenge on Confucius, the same situation. You will see Confucius may not hold his not previous principle, later principle. Okay, so we should read as before he developed this principle, what he is thinking. I think that's the timing we can see. But of course, they didn't put the time on that. They say when Confucius was 53 years old, when Confucius was 49, he didn't say that. So only thing I can do is just my guess. That's it. So thank you anyway. We have Joe, Kwang, and Nick. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just be brief. Because I just looked over number 17.1. So, but with this, I feel like, one of the things that we've been kind of always trying to define a little bit is Ren in a way. So in a way that this is, I feel like it's providing some insight as to how somebody is, yeah, it is essentially behaving with some degree of virtue and clarity, and essentially in providing, like, where there's a question about whether or not, what the importance of public service, and in what are what can you be considered virtuous in this instance, and it's providing, like, I think, insights exactly into what right action would be in a particular situation. And when you think about it in terms of public service, that's pretty important and central to what Confucius is talking about. So for me, it's just one of those things that kind of where, if as we go through the Analects in general, that I pick up on is that, some of these themes that are that Confucius is he's kind of reinforcing in different scenarios, and almost like he's teaching, he's always teaching someone, if not his students. So anyway, that was just a really quick thought that I had when I was just looked at it for the first couple seconds here. I have a few other thoughts, but I need to formulate them.
Thank you, Joe. But I just want to remind, in this text, look like Confucius is not teaching; he was taught by Yang Huo. Okay, he's not teaching. So I think that's one thing I'd like to.
Yeah, just so that the answer is no. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So yeah,
he's not teaching. He was taught. Okay. So that's one thing. And the second thing I'd like to share, and I hope everyone help me verify my idea. Okay. For the future in this chapter, in this entire book 17. But I'm assuming all this story happened Confucius was 49 years old, relatively young compared to what he taught later. I do find out the word 人, okay, in book 17 or in the early time, has its narrow meaning as benevolence, okay? And later on, Confucius expanded the meaning of 人 to much wider, broader. Okay, that's I'm not sure I'm right or not. I just want to, if you pay attention.
So how would you articulate? Do you
okay,
see?
let's put it this way. You see this word. Okay, Yang Huo tell him, right? Hold your treasure and leave your country go astray. Can this call 人? Because you see country and let's say assume people are suffering, you don't help. It's not 人, right? So that take is a little bit narrow sense as 人 as a benevolence. Okay, you see, you giving some good to others. But Confucius later on developed this 人 as a very high up moral. So I just want to plant a seed here because I do feel a few times when I saw in the early, sometimes the word 人 has been used in the narrow sense, like this one. Okay, I'm not going to argue my theory. I just want to say I have this kind of thought. I may be right, may be wrong, but Kwang, please.
Yes, I would like to say something about common sense in human relations, and it's not a question of west or east. There are many ways to say no. There is only one way to say yes. Okay, so in this little vignette, Yang Huo understood perfectly that Confucius said no. Okay, even if in words at the end he said, all right, it is my intent to serve. Okay, but Yang Huo, being an aristocrat used to the refinements of the court, I'm absolutely sure that he did not understand that Confucius promised him to work with him. Okay, that is absolutely sure in my mind. The other thing, Aman was talking of Li. I agree with him. But at the center of Li, there's one big thing that all aristocrats of that time understood. In all circumstances, you have to keep your cool. If you don't keep your cool, even if you think that the other is an idiot, if you think the other is a thief, you think that the other is a criminal, but he is still an aristocrat. And you have to behave like a gentleman with another gentleman. Okay, that is maybe one of the origin of the gentleman's agreements. And I would say that even with the peasant, if the gentleman is truly a gentleman, he must act with courtesy. So if there's something that is a second nature of the Chinese people, especially of the Chinese people of the ancient times, that everyone understood that he cannot lose his cool even with someone that he doesn't like. And that is something very big. And once again, I stop here. There's many ways to say no, but there's only one way to say yes.
Wait, Kwang. Okay, I'd like to. Can you tell me the reason you say Confucius' answer is no, not yes? Even he says
yes.
Don't go to the historical background, just from the text.
Just from the text.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Just from the text. Because both are noblemen, but Yang Ho is a little bit more high-ranking nobleman than Confucius, offering him a job, an office. If Confucius was truly interested by his offer, he would have rang the same day to the mansion of Yang Ho, for offering his thanks for the gift. And because at the time, if someone in position of offering you a job comes to your house offering you a gift, it is clear that someone desires your services. If Confucius was willing to be in office with Yang Ho, he would have run to Yang Ho mansion the same day and not trying to avoid him, and that Yang Ho by accident bombed on him.
Okay, so you said these two lines by Yang Ho didn't really convince Confucius. Confucius just said, yes, I will serve, but later. Okay, then
yes,
just I will clean the house. I will clean the room. Okay, mom. So it never really cleaned.
Yes.
Okay, got
yes. It's the perfect. That vignette is the perfect conversation between two aristocrats of the time, who don't like each other, but one of the two need Confucius. But Confucius, it's clear in his mind that he didn't want to serve a person that he considered as a thief. I stop here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm not saying I agree, but that's a good argument. Okay, thank you. I'm not like Confucius. I say yes means no. So, Nick, please.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question and a comment. The question is on the historical average. I heard you said that a few years after this conversation, Confucius actually served in the office. Was that scholarly established in terms of the accuracy of the timing?
Kwang, you should know. You know more accurate, right? Confucius served when he was 51 years old. So this time, I think during this time, if by historical, yes, Confucius probably about 49 years old. So 2 years later, Confucius served, right? So big question is, does Yang Ho convince Confucius to serve? Or Confucius served for different reasons? According to Kwang, it's no, right? So
yes. Well, Confucius served because 2 years later, Yang Ho has been defeated by the Jisun family. That's why he ran away to the Qing principality by going through the locality called Quan, precisely. Okay, And because Yang Ho has been defeated, Confucius then was capable to serve the Jisun family, or even better, he served the Duke of Lou because the Jisun family presented him to the Duke of Lou.
Yeah, thank you, Kwang. Yeah,
I
because we need to remember Confucius never served for Yang Huo or served for Ji family. He served for the Lord, the Duke Lu. Okay, so that's also very important for Confucius. That's for this part, Confucius hold his principle very tight, very, you know.
and
Okay, that's very helpful.
speculatively, I mean, none of us know precisely that this conversation was a lesson taught to him. It could be a lesson taught to him in a negative, in that this Shaoren is presenting and producing himself as a junsa, and he has done these horrible things, but he's calling me out on my own principles. Yeah, I'm going to serve, and I'm going to do it better than him because he's the negative example of what I do not think a junsa should be.
Okay, thanks. That's helpful. My comment is actually also a question. It's really on this bigger idea. I mean, the number one idea we heard from Confucius is Zen, and then the next one is Li, about ritual, the importance of ritual or ethic or protocol. But here, this episode demonstrates very clearly that he himself is cynical about this ethics, right? He followed the ethics in form, but not in spirit. He tried to abuse. He tried to take advantage of the the ethics, so, for sure. So it's clearly cynical. So this is my question: is how do we understand his teaching on ritual, on Li? The number one hypothesis would be he had a different meaning for different type of rituals. The serious religion like ritual that is taken very seriously, and he wanted the country, the people, the society to take it very seriously. But then for the other kind, the kind of socially acceptable ethics interaction, well, if I don't like this guy, yeah, I'll play trick with him. Well, so that's one interpretation. The second interpretation would be, well, this guy's emphasized on ritual anyways, full of holes. So therefore, the Chinese culture pay lip service to it. And over the 1,000 years, actually, that aspect of his teaching really has sort of diminished.
Thank you very much, Nick. So let me ask you one question. Okay, you said, I think your comment is I'm not saying I agree or disagree. You say Confucius is cynical. So like Paul has another suggestion, right? He just throw the pig away, say, no, I'm not going to talk to you. So which way would be better? That's my question to you, Nick.
Okay. I mean, Confucius clearly is not a stupid, scholarly person. He knows people. He knows how to behave in the society. So he clearly wouldn't throw away the pigs and then causing rumors that he's not socially, acceptable. So that's why he played this game, right? I accepted. Right. I even pay my. I even. Thank you according to the accepted custom. But I mean, just so happens you are not home. I mean, yeah, it's kind of cynical to me. Yeah. So, but he's clearly engaged in the society. The guy runs the big, nowadays would be called a major university. He's a major administrator. Yeah. And getting those endowments, this guy is a big guy, socially speaking.
Well, anyway, thank you. That's open discussion. Yeah. So we have. What I think I will do is, or what you should do is just go straight to Yang Huo, say, I'm not going to work for you. Okay, let me find another thing. So, but anyway, okay, we are open to any kind of opinion. So we have Kwang and Mark.
Once again, I insist, Confucius did not lie to Yang Huo, because in the case he wanted the job, he would have run to the mansion of Yang Huo the same day. The fact that he did not do that, for an aristocrat like Yang Huo, he understood perfectly the answer. Because let's not at the time, it is very, very important to let everyone keep his dignity. Let's not forget that what is Li after all? Li, at the superficial level, is the mechanism to reduce the degree of violence. And at the deeper level is the epistemological development. Okay, but here, all these very complicated visits and with the idea that he would not find it at home because he managed to find a day that he would not be at home, is a way to reduce the possibility of violence. And I think it is a major function of rituals, either in the West or in the East. I stop here.
Thank you, Kwang. Mark, please.
Yeah, I have a question for Nick. So I'm gonna lay out kind of a viewpoint on this, and then ask a question that might help inform his answer a little bit. To me, ritual seems like it is lip service. Like that's what the whole point of ritual. Like you know, like you mourn your father so many years or your mother so many years or something. Does that mean that like the both people who mourn their fathers for X amount of time, that they both love their fathers exactly that much, or the proportion of love for the father compared to the mother was exactly corresponded to the ritual? I don't think so. I think the whole point of ritual is that you're conforming your external behavior to something that one doesn't necessarily feel inside. Okay, so that's just my viewpoint. Anybody wants to disagree with that, I'd like to hear what they think about that. And then my question for Nick is, when you say Confucius had a cynical attitude about this situation, I'm wondering if you could elaborate on like exactly what you mean by cynical and why you think that that was Confucius's attitude, like specifically, because that doesn't seem obvious to me. That's not the way I think. Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you, Mark. Nikki, you want to answer? Okay, you don't have to, but if you want.
No, I like to. Thank you, Mark. That's a good question. So cynical, to me, has a connotation of being insincere. So Confucius' decision to pay a visit to this guy was clearly not sincere. Right? He picked a time when the guy was away, so as to avoid the guy. But then at the same time, fulfill the expectation of social ethic at the time. So that's what I meant. Yeah.
Well, anyway, thank you, Nick. But later, I thank you, Mark. Mark talk about the 3 years mourning, and later on you will see Zai will argue against the Confucius. Well, 3 years is too long. Okay, 1 year is enough. So that's another interest argument. Paul, please.
Yeah, I appreciated the way Quan described it. I sort of understand how it wasn't actually cynical. It was that he used the techniques of ritual to say no, because it was very clear by his method of responding that he was saying no. And yet it was kept, everyone could save face. So it was actually a brilliant use of the traditions of ritual, because he would have run to the mansion and everything otherwise. So my point, though, is it still leaves the open question. On the road, when he saw him and he asked him those things, why Confucius then said yes? I still have that question. And that's all I really, because I still think if he thought the guy was a thief and all that, I know Aman tried to answer this, but then he still could have gracefully, with some clever use of tradition, weaseled out of it, I would think. I don't understand why he said yes, but I'll leave it.
Yeah, I think that's a really open question, and then probably nobody knows. And again, I also will question, right? The person who wrote it down, right? What's the purpose? Does who saw this one, right? So that's another question. But anyway, that's an open discussion. There's no fixed answer. So we have a Kwang have a final words on this issue. Okay, so unless you have other issue.
Well, he could not have said no, because if he have said no, he would have been forced to say, I will not serve a thief. So it was simply impossible. It would have provoked a civil war, because Yang Ho was very powerful at the time. So sometimes you have to take into account that you want to reduce violence. Okay, it's the same at the United Nations, for example. I'm sorry to be political here, but Israel has been condemned many times by the International Court. But we have the same thing repeating. So what can we do? Well, it's the same. It's diplomacy.
Okay, thank you, Kwang. Okay, so let's move on for chapter 2. It's very short. Okay, Kwang, you want to read, or anyone want to read?
Yeah, that one is short. 17.2. The master said, by nature close to one another, through practice far distant.
Joe, you want to read?
Yeah, sure. Hang on, let me pull it up. The master said, by nature, men are nearly alike. By practice, they get to be wide apart.
Okay, so Aman, you want to?
Book 17, Chapter 2. The master said, people are similar by nature, but far apart in their habits.
Thank you, Aman. This one is very short, but it probably every person who speaks Chinese know this word. And then Confucius talk about, I read this one, I see as Confucius say, education, self-cultivation is very important because people born in a similar nature, but when you grow up, people are different. Neo-Confucianism will say, that's proof. Confucius say, human nature is good. Okay, because you see, we have a bad
没办
people.
法，那就好像你的我要锻炼，刚说哈，
Kevin, okay.
关键是你不知道是哪儿的错了，这个。
Kevin forget to mute. Okay, okay. So anyway, okay, so another thing, because the so-called 三字经 three character classic will say 人之初性本善, then insert 性相近习相远, right? So they add 2 words. From the beginning, human nature is good. When you were born, human nature are similar, and later develop different habit. So that's why, in my opinion, Confucius doesn't say human nature is good, because Mencius say it's good, and later Neo-Confucius, Confucianism believe human nature is good, and that's why this word has been used to prove human nature is good. So that's my opinion. Kwang, please. Not Kwang, Amang, please.
Thank you. I'd point out that Shunzi disagreed and thought humans were rotten to the core. But this is less about, and yes, later Neo-Confucians definitely lined up with Mencius. But this is less about human nature and more of the argument of nature or nurture. And Confucius is painfully clear. Nurture. Nurture is what counts. Nature will give you the same raw material, but habits, the nurturing, the things you ingrain to be your normal behaviors, your normal character, your habits become your character. That's paramount. And so even in the Shunzi mentions divide of good or bad human natures, they still both agreed. All Confucians agreed. Nurture, education. This is the paramount thing. And it's funny because right on the coattails of this vignette, we get this statement, which may express an afterthought about Yang Ho, which is, yeah, I'm a junzi, he's a junzi, but by habit, we are very different people. And later in life, he would not deign to call a man like Yang Ho a junzi. He would start referring to him explicitly as a shaoran.
Thank you, Amang. So let's go to Joe, please.
Yeah, I mean, this is very short, but I think that it's actually, saying obviously a lot, because it's actually speaking to the idea of will, and our ability to change, so that once we go through the process of actually making a change, then that would infer as to why are you developing these habits in the first place? And then you're developing those habits in order to pursue something that is worthwhile. And what is worthwhile are your relationships with other people, specifically in Confucianism. Then you can kind of start to build as to what is actually what is important, what is worth pursuing. And that's where the ritual aspect of things kind of come in. So it's a cultivation, obviously, of kind of as to becoming a virtuous person, but at the same time, it's also highlighting our ability to even do that, which actually gets to another important point, which is responsibility, and what kind of responsibilities that we have, not only to ourselves, but then that responsibility towards each other as well. So I think that this is kind of like a one sentence, but it really kind of is critical to the whole idea of Confucian thought, especially when you're talking about the importance of ritual, because ritual and habits are formed. I mean, that essentially they're one and the same.
Thank you, Joe. Nick, please.
Yes, thank you. I want to comment on this. As you said, it's a short in number of words, but it's very long in its ethical, cultural content. So I agree with Armand's interpretation. There's no connotation of good or bad about human nature. Whatever it is, Confucius says it's the same. So it has this element of humanity that underneath all, we are the same. So I guess that's why it resonated through thousands of years. But then the second part of the statement says the nurture part of it. So this is very much like the Aristotelian emphasis on hexes, right? Through habituation, maybe / education, we become different kinds of person. But what's missing here, the only one that's missing is the tabula rasa kind of assumption that maybe we have nothing to begin with as human nature. But here Confucius clearly presupposes there is something in our original nature, with a good or bad, a mixture of the mixed bag or whatever, we are the same. But the only missing assumption or alternative theory will be, well, we may be starting with absolutely nothing and getting impressed on by the later encounter with the reality. Yeah.
Thank you, Nick. Joe, please.
Yeah, just a quick question. I mean, with my translation, it says men are nearly alike. And so I'm guessing the nearly part has to do with the intellect.
Are you reading the Leggy, Joe?
Are you ready, Nick?
Are you reading the
Yes.
James Leggy?
Yes.
So I can answer this empirically because James Leggy was a English aristocrat. It was unthinkable that men could be born alike. They obviously had a higher class and a lower class. So his editorializing there is a reflection of aristocracy of English descent. That's why the translation is slightly different there. I think it's been annexed for almost everybody over the years as it's gone on, because it was pretty obvious. Oh, you were defending your position.
Okay, so and because there was an element of me that initially thought that, well, maybe they're an accounting even for circumstances. So like the idea that you're born into a circumstance, right? And that, what is what does nearly alike actually mean if you were to pick it apart? Is it the intellect, or is it the situation that you're actually born into? That would be I don't know how Confucius would actually even address that.
Jason, you want to give it a word by word here?
Okay, so
it does not say nearly.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
yeah. I'm not sure. That's probably English question. Nearly means not, right?
Means
Close.
almost.
Well, probably. So Chinese use 近, right? That means close. So I translate as similar. Okay. Translate as close to, and Leggy translate as nearly. Which one is better? Which one close to the word 近? That means the distance is not far away, right?
Yeah, close.
You think close is better? Okay.
Oh, yeah. No, I think that Amon explanation of Leahy's patrician background is probably good.
Yeah,
nearly also means close.
What?
Nearly is focused on the difference.
No, almost. No, almost.
Almost.
Yeah.
Yes, because in nearly there is an undertone that it's not that close. Okay.
Yeah. That's what I meant. It's not that they are close, but definitely
that close.
Yeah. I know.
I think similar is a good choice for Jin, because it does get to a little margin of error, but it doesn't try and create distance between people in terms of how they are born. In fact, it's trying to bring what Nick was saying, near tabula rasa, but not entirely blank. Just they are so similar. They are so very near alike, which is weird, because if I say near alike, it doesn't sound the same in English as if you say nearly alike. One sounds like you're saying something very close, and the other is saying close but no cigar.
Okay, so I think that's very helpful. But one thing I think I need to change, I just change. I think I put it as a habit. I think I was wrong. Okay, I think it should interpret as practice because they take more on the nurture part on that. So I think we should change it. And Eno do this way, Zhu Xi also do this way, and I think. And then in other, for example, chapter 1, book 1, chapter 1 also use xi as practice. So so I'm going to change to practice. Okay. So anyway, Kwang, please.
Yeah, I just want to come back to the word nature in Chinese is xing,
Yeah.
and it's written with the radical heart and the sheng. Okay, so it's the only place in the Analects that xing is used. Okay, so here we have to understand xing as human nature. Okay, and for Confucius, there is something that is foundational to everyone that is called a human being, and that is that xing, that human nature. And that human nature is close. By that human nature, each human being is close to the other human being, to all the others human beings. And what would make that two people would be very different with time is because that one of the two would have practice, okay, justice, humanity, wisdom, and all those marvelous stuff, and the other one would have neglected the practice of all the marvelous stuff. So that is a very basic Confucian or Confucianist principle. Once again, what is at the core of Confucianism is learning. Okay, you have a foundation called human nature, xing, and from that human nature, are you the one who would be born with it, or you have to study, or you would have to study under difficult circumstance, or even under difficult circumstances you would not study at all. Okay, what we read last week. So that human nature is the foundation, and what would make people different if what they would do with that foundation.
Thank you, Kwang. Thank you, Kwang. Yeah, I think that's important. The xing, this word is very important, but Confucius in the entire Analect, I just do the search, only here happened twice. Okay, so here is one, another one is book 5, chapter 13. Okay, so xing and the ming. Okay, so but it's an important word, but only happened once, the technical ones here. So okay, so this is a short paragraph, and then we have another very short one. Okay, so chapter 3. Kwang, thank you.
Okay, 17.3, the master said, only the wisest and the stupidest do not change.
All right, thank you, Kwang. Okay.
Okay, you want to read the leggy version?
Yeah, please.
The master said, there are only the wise of the highest class and the stupid of the lowest class who cannot be changed.
Thank you, Joe. I think
definitely
Amang is right, very leggy.
That reinforces, yeah, the yes, very much.
I have the highest respect for the Leggy translation, and I enjoy reading it. But you do have to contextualize it sometimes. Realize
Yeah.
we're talking, late 1800 Englishman. Book 17, chapter 3. The master said, only the supremely wise and the lowest fools won't change.
Thank you, Amang. And I don't think I have much to say on this basic. I think I assume everybody agree, right? So, Amang, you have anything to say?
I think there's an element of what meritocracy looks like in ancient Confucianism. Everyone should have the capacity to change. And only if you are of the supreme heights of wisdom, which very few living people get that accreditation from Confucius, or if you're the lowliest fool, and I think those numbers probably start heaping up over the years in his estimation, are you incapable or disinclined to change? Everyone else, as long as you're not an idiot, you can start changing. And if you're not a sage, you probably can stand some room for improvement.
Thank you, Amang. But one thing I just recall, one suggestion is instead of read as a 3-character classic, 人之初，性本善，性相近，习相远. We should read chapter 2 and chapter 3 together. Okay, seems chapter 3 is explaining chapter 2. Okay, so through practice, you will become different. Who will not become different? Okay, the really supreme wise person who is innate a sage, so he doesn't have to change. Or the person who is so stupid or refuse to practice, so it never change. So one way to read is reading 2 and 3 together. That's another way to see it. Okay, we have Kwang and Joe, please.
Well, I think that 17.3 is the short version of 16.9. Okay, 16.9 is Confucius said, those who are born knowing are the best. Next are those who study and come to know it. Next are those who study it only in circumstances of duress. And those who do not study it, even under duress, they are the lowest of people.
Yeah, thank you. 16.9, I think, right? Yeah, that's the one. So that's I think last week we discussed, right? That he put some people are born knowing, some are knowing through practice or study, some study after face difficulty, and some that will be the lowest person, right? So foolish person, he face difficulty, still refuse to learn, so he will never change. So thank you, Kwang. Joe, please.
Yeah, I just think it's the important thing here is the idea of the refusal to change. That if you actually are making that choice, just as I said a little bit earlier, is the idea of the will, that if you're actually making a conscious decision not to change, then you're obviously a fool. So that there's not only are you not changing, but you're also not obviously moving towards something. You're not cultivating anything. So there's an element of there's a lack of learning that would involve.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
I think what Joe said needs just a little bit of a tail end to it, because I think you're right, but I do think that learning, I think the implicit indication here is learning will happen whether it's intentional or unintentional, and it will only slide you into these two directions. You will only work your way intentionally towards being a wiser person or unintentionally to being a fool.
Mark, please.
Hi, everyone. I can't stay for the whole class tonight. I apologize. But I like the idea that these 3 chapters at the beginning of book 17 might be read together, because Yang Huo was asking can the man who has a fortune but hoards it while the state goes bad, course, Confucius is going to say no, but Yang Ho might be projecting his own life experience. He thinks he's talking about Confucius, but he is probably the one who is allowing the state to degenerate. And can the wise man consistently miss the opportunity? Well, he is not wise enough to have that opportunity himself. Then in two, men are close to one another by nature, well, certainly, but Confucius and Yang Ho diverge through repeated practice. And it is only the most intelligent and the most stupid who are not susceptible to change. So Yang Ho is the most stupid and Confucius is the most intelligent. Neither of them are going to change in this relationship.
Thank you, Mark.
Suggestion.
That's a
Speculation.
great interpretation. Okay, so let's move on for the chapter 4, which Confucius make a joke.
Okay. So 17.4, the master went to Wucheng and heard the sound of zithers and singing. With a little laugh, he said, "Does one chop up a chicken with a beef cleaver?" Ziyou replied, "In the past I have heard the master say, when a Junzi studies the Tao, he cherishes people. When the small man study the Tao, they are easy to direct." The master said, "My friends, Yan's words are correct. What I said before was merely in jest."
Chapter 7.
Book 17, chapter
Sorry.
4.
No,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, chapter 4. Yeah.
the master visited the city of Wu and heard there the sound of stringed instruments and singing. The master smiled and said, "Why does one use an ox cleaver to kill a game hen?" Zaiyu replied, "In the past, Yan, Zaiyu, has heard teachers say, a junzi learning the Tao will care for people. A small man learning the Tao will become easy to employ." The master said, "Guys, Yan, Zaiu's words are correct. What I said before was only a joke."
Thank you, Amma. Okay, so here, I think this one, the same situation happened in book 6 when Ziyu, also called Yan. Okay, so Ziyu, I think the book 6 talking about Confucius, talking about Ziyu working as the city mayor. Okay, so that's the same probably happened the same time when Ziyu working take care of the city of Wu. So at that time Confucius talking about what do you do over there. He introduced a person called Ming. Okay, so he's an ugly guy, but he's a wonderful people. Okay, that's in book 6. Okay, and here it's happened the same situation. Not the same situation, the same time, right? When Confucius visit that place to see his disciple and hear the music, apparently Ziyu is playing the music, okay, or he has his band, his orchestra playing. So, but anyway, Confucius smile, 玩儿. I think that's the only time use this word, okay? Because when Confucius laughed many times during the Analects, but this time is really happy laugh, because when I forget which book talk about when Zilu talk about my inspiration is in charge of a big nation, I can make nations. Confucius also smile, but his smile during that time is a little bit sarcastic. Okay, so not approve. But this one Confucius smile is approving. Okay, so he smile, but I don't know, he made a mistake or he really tried to make a joke. Okay, so he say, why you use an ox cleaver to kill a game hen, right? You know the ox cleaver is huge and the chicken or hen is small. You don't use the big tools to do a small thing. He's talking about this music is for cultivate education, improve the 君子, okay, which is not the common people. Ziyu use this one. I believe he probably doing the open music, so everybody can hear it. So he said, Confucius said, "Oh, you do it for the common people. Is that like kill a hen with the ox cleaver?" Okay, so then Ziyu quote what Confucius said before, right? Confucius said, a 君子 learning the Tao, which is when Ziyu playing music, it's kind of Tao, or play the music, 君子 will learn the Tao. But for the small people, a small man will become easy to employee, okay, become obedience in this way. So Confucius said, yeah, you are right, okay. And apparently he used 二三子. I translate as he used this one to call guys in the right way or student in the right way. So apparently Confucius visit Ziyu with a few of his students. So Confucius talked to his other student and say, yeah, guys, Ziyu, or he called him Yan, is right, okay? What I said before, just a joke. So that's it. Among, please.
I kind of love that he has to be explicit that he was joking, because his students probably aren't used to hearing a lot of jokes come out of the master's mouth. This smacks of the teacher observing the student, taking his lessons, and really sort of building them to a place he did not expect to see that student's achievements. I mean, Ziyu is the mayor of this city. That's nothing to sneeze at. He is in a position now where he has the wheels of government. He can steer things. And what's he doing? He's allowing this elevated music to be played for the commoners. And it's not a stretch to imagine that as the mayor, you said, my teacher's coming. Everyone look busy. The boss is here. Everybody look busy. So he's putting on the best show possible. And I'm sure Confucius recognizes that. But at the same time, that they can put on this show, that's an impressive display of having taken the master's lessons to heart. And I do kind of love the overkill imagery, an ox cleaver to kill a game hen. It's really, do you need to go over the top like this? And he's saying, hey, I heard teacher tell us that a junsa will care for people, and that only a small man would use the Dao to get employed. And he's like, yep, okay. My lesson sound, you've got it. Ox cleaver aside, this is a great display. So take what I said as a joke. It's not a strict criticism. But there's also something interesting in this that speaks to the Confucian value that has permeated Asian culture, which is his student is doing incredibly well and just impressing him with the amount of whole adaptation of the lessons he's taught. Still got to find some way to criticize gently, but I got to get criticism in there. If I don't criticize you, you won't think I'm treating you, you'll think that you're off the hook, as it were. And I am your teacher, and I need to be your teacher indefinitely. So no matter how good you do, please just expect there's going to be a criticism or a critique somewhere in your performance. That relationship is prevalent in modern Confucianized cultures, that you are never going to get a job well done. You're going to get a, that's not so bad, but did you, yeah, that actually ties into my secret lessons story from last week, but I digress. I'll let everybody else give their impressions of this.
Thank you, Amam. Any comment on this one? Oh, there's no comment on this one. So it's a joke. It's a joke. Kwang, please.
A very short comment. Okay, here, a Junzi is not used as the exemplary person, but truly as an aristocrat, a ruler. Yeah. And the small man is not in the sense of an inferior man, morally speaking, but simply the people who are ruled.
Thank you, Kwang, to point out this one. That's back to my original, I talked about the theory. I feel this book 17, is, at least the writer is taken on the more early time. So not only Ren has the narrower idea, also just like Kwang, you said, the 君子, 小人, small man, take a more original meaning than later on Confucius put a moral meaning. I just try out this idea. I'm not sure I'm right or wrong, but that's one of the example. Yeah. Thank you, Kwang, anyway. Mark, please.
I'm not sure if this is correct at all, but it seems like in chapter 1, chapter 4, maybe even chapter 3, that Confucius is being represented as fallible, or the word is just escaping me when you're showing yourself as vulnerable.
No, I agree with you, Mark. The fallibility, or the you know, the only, what's the joke? The only infallible figure in Christendom is the Pope. And here, that's sort of potential status is eroded from Confucius. And it does tie in with Jason's theory. I'm actually kind of getting intrigued by this idea that the whole of Book 17 is a window into the prototypes of Confucianism as it will develop over years and decades from this point. I do find that fascinating, but I also find it fascinating that there is almost an explicit attempt to take from Confucius the possibility that he will be elevated to some sort of sage or, mythical deified figure here. Didn't stop it from happening, but it does seem like that's at least part of the intent of this book.
Thank you, Amam. Yeah, well, actually, I would say, Mark, I think your observation is, so far I agree with you. And I also think about chapter 18, which, book 18, the next book. Surprisingly, it's very Taoism. Okay, Confucius kind of not far away or very similar to Taoism. Okay, teacher, book 18. So each book, basics, roughly we can say is compiled by different student. Okay, so we didn't read the Xunzi, but Xunzi I like his essay talking about criticizing on 12 philosophers. So I think in these 12, I think 5 of them are Confucianism, Confucian school. So after the death of Confucius, I think they have 7 different schools, and they all different. So I'm glad Mark is able to observe the difference on this one. So if we pay attention, you may find out there's a different period of time or different writer. Okay, on the 20 books. So, Kwang, please.
Well, I think that your hypothesis, Jason, is very right, because let's not forget that Junzi, word by word, mean the son of a lord. Okay, Jun, a lord, and Zi, son, the son of a lord. So Junzi was a general name for all aristocrats. Okay, because to be an aristocrat, you have to be the son of a lord. I would like to say that I has always been amused by the Greek words for the aristocrat, meaning the eupatrides, meaning those who have the good fathers. So you have to have the good fathers, the right ones, to be an aristocrat. So it's the same thing for Junzi. It was at the beginning only a marker of the fact that you are a member of the hereditary nobility. And the revolution that Confucius brought precisely to Chinese civilization is that you can be a Junzi, a gentleman, not because you are the son of a lord, as the word is clearly indicating, but by having your epistemological journey. So if there's one word that absolutely prove Jason's theory, is Junzi.
Thank you, Kwang. So, okay, let's move on. Chapter 5. Okay, pay attention on the chapter 5, which is a similar situation as chapter 1. Kwang, please.
Okay, so 17.5. Gongshan Furao held the city of Pi in revolt. He summoned the master who wished to go to him. Zulu was displeased. He said, "Do not go. Why must it be Gongshan you go to?" The master said, "How can it be that he summons me for no good purposes? If there's one who would use me, I could make for him a chow in the east."
Thank you, Kwang. Joe, have hands up. Joe, you want to read?
I think Joe may have had to step away.
Oh, okay. So, okay, let's go ahead to read this one.
Book 17, chapter 5.
Just 1 minute. Let me find my text. Where is it? Oh, here. 5, right? So,
Chapter 5. Gongshan Furao was staging a rebellion from the city of Bi against the Ji family. He summoned the master who wanted to go. Zulu was unhappy and said, "If you have no place to go, then stop going. Why must you go to Gongshan Place?" The master said, "Since I was summoned, how can my going be in vain? If I am employed, I will restore Zhou rituals in the East."
Thank you, Amam. So this one is I think this story happened after chapter 1, which Yang Huo was the head of the B city. I don't know what's going on. Yang Huo, probably he rebelled and left. And this one happened after. So another person, Gongshan Forao, okay, become the head of the city of B. So he used this city as a base to rebel against Ji family. So he summoned Confucius to go. I don't know what's his purpose. And Confucius has intention to go. And I don't know he actually went or not. But Zilu is unhappy and said, okay, Zilu is not much younger than Confucius, only 9 years younger. So his conversation with Confucius always like brothers kind of communication. Okay, so Zilu said, if you have no place to go, then stop going. He said, yeah, 谓之也也，莫之也也. It's the end of the road, then stop. Why must you go that place since you know he is rebellion? So Confucius' answer is quite interesting. So that's another, excuse me, evidence of this thing happened in before most of Confucius' teaching. Seems he haven't firm, very sure about his principle or his doctrine yet. So Confucius' answer is, since I was summoned, how can my going be in vain, right? He's talking about that's an opportunity. I can do something and then restore the Zhou rituals in the east, because they are on the east side of China. So that reflects what Confucius thinking, okay, before he start to do a lot of teaching. So that's my opinion, and then Aman, please.
Yeah, so anytime I read the Analects, I'm always looking for reiteration of core lessons. This one's a little more challenging because there's a rebellion against a legitimate family, even if it is one he doesn't like. And that rebel is summoning the master to go. And Zulu, who is kind of the sword of Confucius, if one wants to call him that, he's the guy who is always concerned about, hey, I'm looking out for your well-being, is telling him, this doesn't sound like a great idea. But here he is exhibiting youthful exuberance at the idea, I can go if I'm summoned. How could this be in vain? If I get a job in this court, I could restore the Zhou rituals, Li, in the East. This does smack a little bit of hubris, but you can see sort of the thinking. Restore the Li, then that will restore proper etiquette, behavior, Shao, which was one of the other values that wasn't mentioned a lot earlier, respect for one's immediate family. And if those get restored, then Ren will begin to prevail. It's almost as if, although the Ji family has a legitimate claim on this, Confucius is looking at this as an opportunity to help move the mandate of heaven from one family to another, so that he's understanding this in a context of this could be the starting ground for a legitimate usurpation, and I could be instrumental in that. That sort of hubris is ill-advised in the later teachings of Confucius, but it does just strike me that Ren, Shao, Yi, these lessons are absent here explicitly. The only explicit lesson is Li, ritual. And although they're absent here, you can almost hear him saying, I'll restore the Zhou in the East. All those other lessons will begin to fall in place if we can just get the rituals right, if we can just move that mandate of heaven slightly over to a new and better ruler of this place. I don't think an old Confucius would have approved of this, but this is the staging ground that gave us an older Confucius, and getting to see a young Confucius like this is a window into his fallibility. And it supports that idea of this is prototyping of the Confucius who would be later.
Thank you, Amam. Let's have a brief discussion. Kwang, please.
Just a small historical note that Gongshan Furao was a subordinate officer of Yang Ho. So when Yang Ho ran to the west, Gongshan Furao will keep on the rebellion for maybe 3 to 4 months. And it was precisely a disciple of Confucius that would help the Jison family to bring down Gongshan Furao.
Oh, so Kwang, let me ask you. So in this way, that's back to chapter 1. Confucius really want to work for them because the Confucius yes means yes, because after he left, in this text he said Confucius want to go.
Yes, exact. Because Gongshan Furao was not of the same quality than Yang Ho. Confucius was absolutely sure that he would not be capable to influence Yang Ho. But Confucius thought that he would be capable to influence Gongshan Furao.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let me ask you one question. You know history. So in the book 16, right, the beginning, when the Zilu and what's his name? Yeah, one
Ran You.
Ran You, right? They are sounds they are excited when Ji want to attack the Zhuan Yu, right? Zhuan Yu is next to the city of B. So that one happened after this story, right? So
exact.
Okay, so that's when they take the Zhuan Yu, they try to take care of B, or they take care of B in the same time they want to take care of Zhuan Yu.
Oh, no. The P rebellion has been controlled before they wanted to attack Zhuan Yu, because the leader of the Jison family wanted to get the jade treasure of the Zhuan Yu small state. It's a very small state,
yeah.
But according to history, they had a treasure of many pieces of marvelous jade that the leader of the Jison family wanted to appropriate for himself.
Oh, thank you. So basically, this one 7.1 happened, then 17.5 happened, then 16. Then Ji family take care of the B city. Then thinking about attack Zhuan Yu. And you said Confucius' disciple helped Ji family to take care of the city of B. There must be Ran You and the Zilu. Okay.
Absolutely.
That's why
absolutely,
Zilu,
because
that's why Zilu is not happy, right? Because he
exactly.
Okay, got you. Yeah, thank you.
Because those two are the disciples of Confucius who had military talents.
Yeah, the one I think is the one has the military talent, and then you're probably on the finance or administration, something like this. So they are pretty capable, experienced politician, I believe. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so shall we go one more chapter? Let's go
Yeah,
one.
I think we can get one more in unless we
Okay,
want to
let's
have
go one
open
more.
conversation.
Yeah, okay. So let's go chapter 6. Kwang, you want?
Okay. So 17.6, translation by Professor Robert Eno. Zhu Chong asked about Ran. The master said, "He who can enact 5 things in the world is Ran." When asked for details, he went on: reverence, tolerance, trustworthiness, quickness, and generosity. He is reverent, hence he receives no insult. He is tolerant, hence he gains the multitudes. He is trustworthy, hence others entrust him with responsibilities. He is quick, hence he has accomplishments. He is generous, hence he is capable of being placed in charge of others.
Thank you, Kwang. So that's really fine.
Book 17, chapter 6. Zizang asked Confucius about Ren. Confucius said, "He who can practice 5 things in the world is Ren." Zizang said, "Please." Confucius said, "Courtesy, magnanimity, trustworthiness, swiftness, and kindness. A courteous person will not be disgraced. A magnanimous person will gain popularity. A trustworthy person will be entrusted by others. A swift person will have achievements. A kind person is able to employ people."
Thank you, Amam. Okay, so I think here is Confucius talking about Ren, and then I think here important is the 纸张. So this conversation must happen much later time, and because 纸张 is a very young disciple. Importantly in book 2, there's the 纸张 is pursuing a public service, civil service position. 纸张学甘露. So Confucius tell him what to do. So he's very young disciple, and then interesting I find out is 纸张 ask a lot of questions in the 20 books in all the Analects. So I just kind of figure out he asked what is enlightenment, what is the virtue and the confusion, what's meaning of governments, okay? What's the meaning of scholar, what's the meaning of action, and right now he's asking what's the meaning of 人. So actually, 纸张 is kind of the people who ask a lot of different questions. So Confucius always give him a very detailed step-by-step answer. So here you can see the 5 things. So very different than the Western philosophy. In the Western philosophy, when people ask 人, the teacher will try to give you a definition of 人, but Confucius doesn't do this way. Confucius say, "Oh, you should do this 5 things." Okay, so Confucius' concern is not the definition of the 人, is how do you become a 人? And the you doesn't mean everybody. It could be mean 纸张. Okay, this person, how can you become 人 people? So he gives 纸张 5 things: courtesy, magnanimity, trustworthiness, swiftness, kindness. Okay, so 5 things. And he had come with the explanation, right? And this explanation will not be disgraced, will gain popularity, will be entrusted by others, will have achievement, will be able to employ other people. So sounds like Confucius tell him these findings and then tell him what's the benefit of doing these findings. Okay, so that's Confucius' interpretation of Ren to his young disciple, Zizang. Amang, please.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because this gets to that heart of define your terms. And it's not defined here, but there are some interesting components of Ren being pointed to here. So, courtesy, so as to not have disgrace. The Ren person is therefore courteous and not disgraceable, or not disgraceful. To be magnanimity and popularity. So a Ren person is popular through being magnanimous, not for other reasons. Trustworthiness and being entrusted by others, for others. So you are trustworthy, and as a result, others entrust you with things. Swift and achievements. This is an unusual one, not one we've seen a lot of description of, but this ties back to that chapter 1, seizing opportunities. Swift and having achievements. You don't hesitate when the timing is right. And kind and able to employ or activate people around you. You inspire those around you through kindness and not through other means. All of these start to give us a shape of what Ren is. A person who really has Ren has all of this without necessarily going down a checklist. It simply has become so much of their character that it is there, and you see these things from them. And Jason's absolutely correct. Zhejiang is the character of the Analects who is pointed to the most when we need to get a definition of terms that we never get, but we do get something approximating that definition, and usually a more rounded out picture of a term than what we've had before. As far as the theory of prototyping ideas, this definition of Ren feels very different than 7.1's definition of Ren or interpretation of Ren. Can you be called Ren when you cherish treasure but let his state go astray? Nope. Can you be called, this is a fundamentally different kind of Ren. You're not cherishing treasures. You're not accumulating for its own purposes. There is something deeper in human interconnection and the person you're becoming that comes out in this version of Ren. So I guess we're looking at sort of the prototype 2.0.
Thank you, Aman. So let's have a brief discussion. Anyone have anything to say about this? That's a more serious teaching. So no. Kwang, you have anything to say?
Well, I would say that except for the definition given by Confucius in 12.1, this definition given in 617.6 is the second most precise definition of a run in all the Analects. Okay, so 12.1, run is to conquer yourself and to return to Lei, and 17.6, the 5 qualities. I stop here.
Thank you, Kwang. Okay. Yeah, Confucius tried to define. I tend to not to see that the Confucius the definition. He probably doesn't have the concept of definition. I think that's a very Platonic or Socratic concept, right? Like in Minos. Okay, I think that's very Platonic concept. Okay, so Confucius doesn't care what's the dictionary definition or universal definition. He cares is how to achieve this. I think that's he want to do. So anyway, any other comment? We probably have to.
Paul's got a hand.
Okay, Paul.
Yeah, I think you just answered my question, but just to relate this to the Tao that we have been studying in the past, is that a similarity between the two in that I felt the same way in the Tao, that you never defined anything, you just gave examples. So just contrast the two, because I was about to ask, because I'm not as familiar with the Analects, if that's what Confucius does all the way through, what this kind of thing, and you said yes. So can you say about that related to the Tao? Yeah, that's all.
Can I actually take a stab
great.
at this? I think definitions are the quintessential form of the Western need to essentialize. It is looking for essentialism in the form of words. When you have pictographic, metaphoric languages, essentializing them is not as necessary because they're meant to be evocative of ideas. So as it's been said before, Ren is the character of a person next to the number 2. You are meant to see that, think of it deeply, and meditate on what its possible implications might be, but to give it a singular definition might erode the other depths you could find to it. So you don't see the need to define terms quite as much in most of classic Chinese thought as you do in the West, where we have this logarithmic alphabetic language that has no quintessential meaning in and of itself when you look at a word. That's part of the reason I think you see that sort of reoccurrence of disinclination to define a term.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Amang. Yeah, I agree with Amang. We keep saying, if we keep saying Chinese philosophy or Indian philosophy, okay, there's no definition, but in a way, the concept of definition could be very Western concept. That's why I didn't realize until I read Wittgenstein, okay, talking about the meaning of the words is in its use in language. So kind of like throw out the concept of definition. Yeah. So Kwang, please.
I like very much the idea of quintessential language that Aman just brought in. And I just want to give 2 examples, okay? Jun, meaning Lord, is made of a mouth and of an axe, okay? So a Lord is defined by his mouth, meaning he's giving orders, and an axe, meaning the instrument, the tool of his power. Justice, E is made by beauty and me. So justice, or to be fair, is the beautiful me. Okay, so I just want to give those 2 examples. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much. And then we are on time. So any final words? Final words, second time, third time? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Those are my final words, and I look forward to seeing everybody next week.
All right, thank you.